Hey yo, what's the deal? You know who it is. It's the Don. Cheer! Tony Teflon. House Teflon. We pull the strings. Cheer! And I'm back at you, my people, with another video. Another one. And this one is a little overdue, but we got it regardless. So that's all that matters, you know what I mean? So it is, who is the champion of the Drown God video. But before I get into this video, I'd like to give a shout out to my man LT Giles, who has just put up a recent video, has been doing recent videos, and I suggest anyone who's looking for new videos and new people doing it to check my man out there. You know what I mean? He's got some stuff out there. He's trying to work on this thing, so, you know, show that man some love. Take a look at his stuff, and you know, watch what he do, because he does it good. You know what I mean? So big out there. I know you asked a question, and I'll answer that question on my question and answer video for this. All right, homie? No doubt about that. So one love to you, and one love to all my peoples and subscribers and my new subscribers. Yeah, just jumped on with me, you know what I mean? Thank you for rolling with me. Thank you for being down with me and all that. You know, I appreciate it. I really do. And so let's get into this. I'm going to try to do this right now. Now, the reason I picked Patchface, and that's who I'm going to go with here. I'm going to go with Patchface is the Drown God's champion. Obviously, you probably see the picture up there. But the reason I picked Patchface as a Drown God champion over the Greyjoys, now that could shock people, but I think that if you, look at the way I look at it, you may agree, you know, and I know there's some people who just don't like to agree or just like to argue, and that's so good, or maybe I'm wrong, but either or, maybe I could shed a little light. I'll give you at least why I feel that Patchface is the champion of the Drowned God. Now, a person people would think is the Dampier. They would claim that he would be one, and he would have a great claim because he was reborn that seed. So I would think before that, if you would have to have at least two things from the Drowned God that seed, because mostly it's being a prophet of it. So being a prophet of the Drowned God, you'd have to have some type of prophetic dreams, and you'd have to be reborn in the salt and the water. That's the way I'd see two things that you would have to be the champion of the Drowned God. Now, the Dampier, yes. Was he reborn in the sea? Yes. We don't see it, but we have to assume that he was, because he's a prophet of it. So we must assume that he has been reborn of this salt and the water. But you know, he doesn't really have too many visions, too many prophetic things in there. Nothing that I'm seeing that's really substantial, and I just don't really see it. Now, him being it. Euron, especially the fact that Euron, a godless man, kind of bitched him out and got him out of there. And since Euron is godless man, we know he cannot be the champion. Now, Victorian, he makes a good choice. And he even gets help from the Drowned God. Now, when he sacrifices those ladies on the ship he sets afire, he says if they are taken by the Drowned God, then they will laugh with the mermaids and drink and be merry. And then right before the ship is last seen, we can hear laughter. So to me, this shows the Drowned God does have some power. We always see Valor power. And this is one of the only times that we see a power from another god. And the Drowned God makes the wind after that happens, hit his sails, and he just takes flight. But we could also say Victorian has to ask Makoro for predictions. So he doesn't really have any prophetic things. And I think that's a power that the champion of the Drowned God should have. He also could be seen, Victorian, as reborn in fire, because Makoro, and he could have been stripped from that title by being reborn in fire. When he was taken in the room with Makoro, the sounds that come out from the room are the exact same sounds that come out from Mirror Master's room when she has Drogo in it and has Dany in there. We also know that Victorian's going to die because Makoro says he sees a glorious future for him. So we know that he's going to die gloriously, but I do not think it's going to be glorious for him. So that is why I have to go with Patchface. And the reason why I pitched him. Now, number one, what was Patchface reborn? Now, Patchface is a justice slave in Volantis. Patchface was a clever boy with astonishing wit. His freedom was bought by Lord Stephen Baratheon, who was impressed with him and intended to bring him back to Storm Ends from his trip to the Free Cities. Now, while Lord Teflon Barasman's ship broke up in Shipbreaker's Bay within sight of Storm's End, while his sons Stannis and Robert both watched. Everybody aboard the ship was killed, including the Lord, his lady, and over 100 soldiers and sailors. Patchface then washed up 3 days later, his naked skin white wrinkled, and the man that said that found him swears that to his dying day that the fool's skin was clammy and cold. They had taken him for dead, but when he coughed up water, a bit broken from his mind and body, the ordeal had taken away his memories and half his wit. Now he's a subject to twitches and tremors and mostly incoherent. What happened to him during the 2 days is unknown, but the fisher folk like to say a mermaid had taught him to breathe underwater in return for a seed. Now, this mermaid that taught him to breathe underwater in return for a seed, now we have heard this story before. This is nothing new. And to understand this, we must know who the drowned god is. So, who is the drowned god? Now, Victorian talks about the drowned god to Makora. And now, we know that these people, Ironborn, are very crazy and that they will kill you. But with no fear, Makora tells him that there are only 2 gods, R'hllor and the ones whose name cannot be said, the great other. Now, we also hear Melisandre say this to other people all the time, that there are only 2 gods. But if there are only 2 gods, the other people, what about these other gods that people pray to? The old gods, the new gods, the Mother Rhoynar, the Lady of the Waves, the Lord of the Skies, the Aquacan, the Bull, the Black Goat, the Great Shepherd, the Horse God, the Lady of the Spears, the Lion of the Night, the Many-Faced God. That's just to name a few. Now, if you listen to Makoro, he says it. Makoro says to Victorian, your God is a thrall to the great other. So we can say that the drowned god is a thrall to the great other, which to me means he is the great other's underboss, consigliere, or type of capo. And I think that the other gods I mentioned are the same thing. They are just underbosses or consiglieres or capos of either the great other or R'hllor. And I think every other boss falls right into those categories. So we do see that he has been reborn, Patchface. So when we look at the Night King and how he met the female White Walker, we know that he gave her his seed. And we see the same thing happening with Patchface underwater. And we have to also remember that the bottom line is that you get no ice without water. So when you go to the reborn for Patchface, we have to check that off, that is a yes. Now, Patchface is also in Stannis' court, and that puts him in direct competition with Melisandre, the agent of R'hllor, who is also in his court. And from the jump, she wants him killed. She says she sees something terrible to do with him. And she says to Jon, that creature is dangerous. Many a times I've glimpsed him in my flames. Sometimes there are skulls around him, and his lips are red with blood. Now, what does this mean, when she's saying this? She's saying that she sees him many a times, not once or twice, but many. He's always in her flames. And we know there's skulls around him. And we know that the skulls around people when she sees them means that there's death around. So there's death around this man. And his lips are red with blood. Now, when his lips are red with blood, to me, the only thing I can think of lips being red with blood that I could really think of is the lady when she's getting controlled, about to get controlled by a dude in the prologue, Chad Vladimir's Sixskin, and she bites her tongue off, and her lips are all red and mouthed with blood. So we see someone trying to be controlled, and the lips are red with blood, which could mean to me that Patchface will be controlled directly by someone, make something happen later on. Now, prophetic visions. I would have to say yes, that he does have prophetic visions. We have seen this over and over again. I have said before I was going to do a video of his visions, but since I have taken so long, I'll do a couple of them right now, and I'll tell you what I think they mean. One vision he had, he says, fool's blood, king's blood, blood on the maiden's thigh. but change for the guest. And the groom, I. Now, to me, that is obviously him predicting the red wedding. I don't see how anyone could see that anything but that. So that's when I see it. Now, another one he says is, the shadows come to dance, my lord, dance. He's saying, hopping from one foot to the other and back again. The shadows come to stay, my lord, stay, my lord, stay, my lord. He jerked his head with each word, the bells in his antlers ringing and clanging. To me, this is either two things, and that's it. It's either one or two things. I don't know exactly. That's what I said. I told you before. I wasn't sure exactly. That's why which one was which. That's why I was taking so long. So I'll give them both of what I think. It's either Melisandre birthing the shadow babies, but the problem I have with that is that it says that they're here to stay. I don't know if the shadow babies do stay. They have not given any indication that the shadow babies linger on after they do their job, but maybe they do. We don't know that. Or it means, which I think probably does mean, is Dany's dragons passing over. We all see all the time dragons are. They have talked about how they cast these giant shadows, and I think it could be that, and they're here to stay. And dancing with dragons in the air is obviously happens over and over again. All right. He also says, under the sea, smoke rises and bubbles, and flames burn green, blue, and black. All right. Now, to me, this means it could be one of two things again. It could either mean the Battle of Blackwater. Obviously, we have the Battle of Blackwater. We have the green fire from the wildfire. We have the black water and blue water, right? Blackwater is the name and blue is the water. So it could be Blackwater Bay. It could also mean the new dance with dragons. We could see the greens and the blacks being the new dance of dragons, which could mean Dany and Aegon, and the blue would be obviously Jon, because he's described as the blue rose of his mother a couple of times. So I think it can mean either one of those. He also says, under the sea, mermen feast on starfish soup, and all the serving men are crabs. Now, to me, it's mermaid equals Mandalay, and I think that the seahorse is Valerian. And the Mandalay and Ordrain Warriors, the bastard of Driftmark, they both have significant and really big, huge fleets that we know about recently. So I think that that could mean that. So we have to think of this as, we have to think of what is the plot to this situation. What is this about? What are they up to, right? That's basically what it comes down to in the end. So we have the prophetic visions and everything else. So what is he up to? What are they going to do up at the wall? So when I think about the plot, I only see one consistent thing with Patchface, and that's Shireen. Shireen is always around him. Shireen is always mentioned about him, and usually Shireen has something to do with it. What we know about Shireen is basically two things. We know that she has a dream that she's going to get eaten by a dragon, and we know she has grayscale. So, what is this? Now, grayscale, we know, is a disease that can leave flesh stiff and dead, and skin cracked and flaking. Sometimes it can turn molten black and stone gray to the touch. It affects children, and especially children that are in cold and damp climates. Victims are usually disfigured, but it also renders them immune to the rare form, which is the gray plague. Free folk consider people who have survived grayscale unclean. So we know that it leaves people, if you have grayscale, this form of grayscale, and you survive it, right? We know that basically you cannot get the real deadly one, which is the gray plague. You're immune to that. So that's what grayscale is. Now, the people treat it differently. There's some people who treat it, grayscale. Maesters could say that it could be stopped with mustard poisons and scalding hot baths. But then Septons tell you that it's prayer and sacrifice, and that cures it. So some people think it's biological. Some people try to cure it as a spiritual disease, like it was a curse put on it. Now, We know this about grayscale, the first sighting that I know about grayscale, and it comes from this. And we can read this. At the chronic, the cage was hung from the walls, so that the prince might witness the enslavement of the women and children and fathers and brothers who have died in its gallant, hopeless war. But the prince, it is said, called down a curse upon the conquerors, in, entreating entrenching Mother Rona to avenge her children. And also that very night the Rhonite fluttered out of season with great force, a greater force that is known in living memory. A thick fog of evil humors fell, and the Valerian conquerors began to die a great scale. So right here we see a water-based curse was set upon this world by another thrall, the great other, another water god, and use this to kill off. Now remember, we see this fog that comes through, and then people die. So I think that in the end, the plan for Patchface is to release Grayscale, whether it's off of Shireen, it can make it active again, into this gray plague that will wipe everybody out there. We also have heard that the waters have flooded in the Riverland. We see that Danny has a dream, the water being flooded over there. We also see Melisandre have a vision of fog going into the cave and saying that it's cold, and when she comes back, that is fog, that is all nothing but skulls. Obviously, that could be White Walkers can be considered that, but this can also be considered the plague that we just seen happen, not just seen, but it had happened a long time ago. It could be taken that it's the same thing, and it's going to happen again and released by Patchface. So that is my video of who the great others, who is the champion of the drowned god, and I believe it is Patchface. So if you have any questions about that, please put them on this, and my next video will be the answer the questions that are from this video. All right, so thank you for watching, thank you for subscribing, and thank you just for taking the time to comment out of your day. You know, it's like I always say, man, you could waste money, you could waste a lot of things, but time is something you can't get back. So y'all don't like people wasting time. So anybody who takes the time to watch me and feels that it's worth their time, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Please subscribe, thumbs up it. Let's try to build this house. And until next time, it's the Don, Tony Teflon, House Teflon, Teflon 316. We pulled the strings. Peace. The people champ. And I'm out. Sexy.